Welcome. I will now tell you a story from a world filled with legends, where the gods of Olympus intertwined with heroes shaped by blood and sweat. Our story begins with a child, found half unconscious in a broken chest in the middle of the sea. This child is Perseus, who carries the blood of the gods and is destined for great deeds in the future. Close your eyes and allow me to take you back to those ancient times when the gods toyed with the fates of mortals. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and the weight of a suppressed tragedy. In Argos, within a bronze chamber where not even a sliver of sunlight could penetrate, the beautiful Danae lived her life as a prisoner. Her father, King Acrisius, had imprisoned her there out of fear of a prophecy: "You will be killed by your own grandson." But one night, a shimmering golden light seeped through the walls of the chamber, changing everything. Zeus, the king of the gods, had fallen in love with Danae. He lay with her, and from this union, a child was born, Perseus. The prophecy had taken its first step. Acrisius, mad with fear, locked his daughter and infant grandson in a wooden chest and cast them into the raging sea to perish. For days and nights, they were tossed in that small chest. The waves hurled them mercilessly until, finally, they washed ashore on the island of Seriphos. There, a kind-hearted fisherman named Dictys found and saved them. Perseus grew up in his mother's loving arms, like an ordinary boy. But the divine power flowing in his veins was a sign that he was not meant for an ordinary life. Years passed, and Perseus grew into a strong young man. However, the king of Seriphos, Polydectes, Dictys' brother, was a cruel man. He had set his sights on the beautiful Danae and saw Perseus as an obstacle to be removed. To get rid of him, he assigned Perseus a deadly task. During a feast, in front of all his guests, Polydectes turned to Perseus and said in a mocking voice, "Everyone has given me wonderful gifts. What shall I receive from you, young Perseus? Perhaps you could bring me the most impossible thing in this world, the head of the Gorgon Medusa." Everyone at the table fell silent. Medusa, the monstrous creature with living snakes for hair, whose gaze turned any living being to stone instantly. This was a death sentence. Driven by the instinct to protect his mother and the courage of youth, Perseus rose to the challenge. "I will bring it," he declared. "I will bring you Medusa's head." As he set out, he felt alone and helpless. He had to achieve the impossible. Just then, two figures emerged from a brilliant light. One was Hermes, the messenger god, master of speed. The other was Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Hermes gave Perseus an unbreakable, sickle-shaped sword of adamantine. "This is the harp sword," he said. "It can slice through the scales on Medusa's neck." Athena offered a shining, polished bronze shield. "Never look at her directly," she warned, her voice serious and calm. "Look only at her reflection in this shield's surface. A single moment of eye contact will turn you into an eternal statue." But first, he needed to find the Gorgon's lair. Hermes led him to the three old sisters known as the Graeae. These women shared a single eye and a single tooth between them. Their sight was weak, but they knew the past and the future. Perseus hid in their cave and, as they passed their single eye between them, he snatched it. Blinded and helpless in the darkness, the sisters begged him. "Give us back our eye," they wailed. "I will," said Perseus, his voice firm. "But first, you will tell me where the Gorgons are hidden." In their desperation, they gave him the directions. Perseus took pity on them and returned their eye. In gratitude, the Graeae gave him a few more magical items: Hades' helm of invisibility, winged sandals that allowed him to fly like the wind, and a magical pouch to carry Medusa's severed head. Now he was ready. He strapped on the winged sandals and soared into the sky. The wind whistled in his ears, the world shrinking beneath his feet. He finally arrived at the western edge of the world, the cursed lands bordering the underworld. This place was filled with death. All around stood people and animals petrified in various poses, all who had once dared to look upon Medusa and paid the price for their courage. He approached the entrance of the cave. A faint hissing and the rustle of snakes came from within. His heart pounded as if trying to escape his chest. He crouched, placing Athena's shield in front of him. On its polished surface, he could see the dark reflection of the cave and the terrifying shape sleeping inside. Medusa was awake. Perseus held his breath. He took each step, focused solely on the reflection in the shield. He was as silent as a leaf falling to the ground. Medusa's snake hair rustled, she moved her head slightly. For a moment, she seemed to sense his presence. A panther. He swung Hermes' sword with all his strength towards the spot he saw in the reflection. The S. In that instant, Perseus did not hesitate. He leaped like a panther. He swung Hermes' sword with all his strength towards the spot he saw in the reflection. The sharp steel cut through flesh and bone amidst a storm of shrieks. Medusa's head was severed from her body, and before it could hit the ground, Perseus flung it into the magical pouch. From the drops of her blood, the winged horse Pegasus and the giant Chrysaor were born. Ignoring them, Perseus put on the helm of invisibility and shot into the sky on his winged sandals, escaping the other two Gorgons who pursued him in a fury. On his journey back, along the coast of Ethiopia, he came upon a tragic scene. Chained to a rock, her eyes shining with fear and honor, was a maiden of legendary beauty, Princess Andromeda. Her mother, Queen Cassiopeia, had boasted that she was more beautiful than the sea nymphs, and as punishment, the gods had sent a terrible sea monster, Cetus, to ravage the land. The only way to appease it was to sacrifice the princess. Perseus saw the desperation in Andromeda's eyes, and his heart was drawn to her. He called out to King Cepheus and the queen, "I will save her, but in return, you must permit me to marry her." The desperate parents agreed immediately. Soon, the sea foamed, and the massive, scaly monster emerged, its mouth dripping with saliva. Perseus attacked with his harp sword. The creature's hide was like armor, the sword barely made a mark. The battle seemed even. Just as Cetus was about to swallow him whole, an idea struck Perseus. "Close your eyes, Andromeda," he shouted. He opened the magical pouch and raised Medusa's head towards the sea monster's face. The creature's furious gaze met the Gorgon's deadly eyes. Instantly, its movements froze, its body turning to cold, gray stone. It stood motionless among the waves, a colossal statue. The crowd erupted in a triumphant cheer. Andromeda was freed, and she looked at Perseus with the gratitude and love due to a hero. They were married in a great celebration, and Perseus set sail for Seriphos with his new wife, for the time had come to return home. But when he arrived, his heart was shattered by the scene that greeted him. The cruel king Polydectes, believing Perseus would never return, had been forcing his mother Danae to marry him, pushing aside the protective fisherman Dictys. Perseus marched furiously into the king's palace. He appeared at the doors of the great banquet hall. Polydectes and his courtiers stared at him with a mixture of astonishment and scorn. "Behold the returning adventurer," Polydectes mocked. "Where is this famous head? Or did you fail to bring it?" A cold calmness settled on Perseus's face. "I brought it," he said, his voice freezing the room. "As I promised you. Here is my gift." His eyes found his mother Danae in the corner, trembling with fear. Then, he drew out the magical pouch and raised Medusa's head in all its horror. The mocking laughter in the hall ceased instantly, replaced by a deep, eerie silence. Polydectes' eyes widened, his mouth opening to scream, but the sound died in his throat. His body stiffened in an instant, its color fading. He, and all his courtiers who looked upon it, turned one by one into dull, silent, gray stone statues. The palace had instantly become a museum of frozen terror. No one on the island could threaten his family anymore. Perseus took his mother and wife, and made Dictys the new king of Seriphos. And so, the story of Perseus, which began in the shadow of a prophecy, was transformed into an epic written by courage, divine aid, and, most importantly, the will of a man to shape his own destiny. The curse he carried had become his greatest power, and a legend was born.